So that happened probably about 3 weeks ago, and I, with my emotional roller coaster and burnout and all levels, God had basically told me that I needed to follow Him and do the right thing, and that I needed to choose Him and not a man. So I said, I trust you, and I did that, and we separated. And it was a lot of heartbreak for me, a lot. Probably still is a little bit raw in that way. But let's not go into that. And he used to tell me all the time to lock the doors, make sure to lock the doors, blah, 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 when I'm here by myself, which is really lovely. And anyway, I've also, on the side note, been collecting cats. I've got about 4 cats that come on in. I've got Stripey, other cat, and then I've got my 2 cats, which is Jasper and Maxie. I mean, they're in here all the time. They pretty much just think they live here, especially Stripey. And so they would just come in all night and keep waking me up, and I'd be like, oh. Anyway, so I said to him, oh, these cats keep coming through the cat door, waking me up. And he's like, well, why don't you shut the cat door? And I was like, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. So that night I did. I locked the cat door and went, and I do dream a lot, and I've always sort of had quite a few dreams of people trying to chase me and get me and things like that in the past. Anyway, so that night I had quite a dream of people trying to attack me and chase after me and trying to get me. Anyway, I woke up to the cat scratching at the cat door, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm not going out there because I can't be bothered. And I went back into the dream, went back to bed, and I woke up to an alarm in my house. I don't have any alarms in my house, so I'm absolutely freaking out, like, what the heck? And I was quite paralyzed. So that was sort of the first dream and a warning. And then I sort of started pressing more into God, and the closer you get to God, the more that the enemy tries to attack you, etc., etc. Just on a side note of that, I have heard that some people do try to attack Christians. I mean, pretty pointless, really, quite stupid. And I do, on the sideline, quite enjoy a bit of spiritual warfare, and I'm very, very, very unashamed of my faith, let's say. And I will speak truth to the day I die. I will. And so then after I'd separated, I had him over for dinner, and I said, but I'm not going to have any hanky-panky. And he stayed in my room that night, and we didn't have any hanky-panky, but he sends me a message. No, that's right, he drove home that day, and I get a picture message, and his mud guard off his car had been ripped off, and he sent me the picture, and it's like, it couldn't have just fallen off, like, it's quite difficultly put on there. And I was like, oh, don't worry, leave it with me, I'll find out who it is. And I do quite like a bit of investigation, so I do have a stalker. So anyway, I messaged him quite sort of on the sly and said, there's a lot going on in the cosmos at the moment. And he sent a message back saying, oh, I know, I'm really jealous, and I shat all over your parade that night. I took that he then proceeded to rip the bumper off this car, or the mudguard off. And so I absolutely throttled him with, by this stage I'm pretty angry. I'm getting pretty wild trying to find things out. And I hadn't even been able to eat for the past couple of days. It was quite bad. So I'm completely saying, well, you've got to put the money in. I want the money by tomorrow. I want sevenfold. I want this much money if you message me. I'm going to add on another $250. As it turns out, I reread back the message, and it didn't say I'm going to shit all over your parade. It said something about, I can't remember. It wasn't quite that anyway. It was like, I wasn't, some shit about the parade. I can't remember. Anyway, I had realised that it wasn't him. So I, in my need to be clear conscience way, I messaged and I said, oh, I'm so sorry for falsely accusing you. That was absolutely terrible of me. and so I have a clear conscience. And so he was right. He didn't even know what I was talking about, actually. And so then after that happened that night, now this is the scariest thing that has ever happened to me in my life. After that had happened, I had the scariest dream I have ever had in my entire life. So that night I went to bed, and I just have to close my eyes for the dream. And I was standing outside, and there was these like 5 kind of like kids, but sort of not. Let's just call them minions. Outside my house, and they wanted to take my car. And I said, oh, please don't take my car. I really need my car. And one was standing over there, and he was holding on to me. And they were all kind of discussing how they were going to steal my car and all this sort of stuff. And I was like, oh, please not. Anyway, next minute, the one that had me had his hands down my pants and grabbed me like this. This took me up to John's house. And I went like this to him. And he didn't see me. And I woke up to the most excruciating fear ever. Like, I was absolutely paralyzed in fear, and I felt like they'd got me. And in that space, breathe, Monique, breathe. In that space and time, my eyes were, I looked at myself in the mirror, and I just wasn't myself. Like, I was absolutely beside myself in anger. I was so angry. I was ripping into the man that I loved. I was absolutely demolishing his deception and lies. I was ripping into him mostly, actually, and just really, really, really not happy with the way things had gone, and me falling into temptation and things like that, which I kind of didn't really know at the time, but I do now. And so funny that. So I hadn't been able to eat for a couple of days. It was really weird, actually, and I remember just looking at myself being like a shell of a person. Like, it was horrible. And I really felt like I have quite strong feelings on things, and I feel things very sensitively. Even God's given me quite the gift of empathy and feeling things for other people. And through that time I was doing Dry July, so my intuition was just off the Richter scale good. And I remember writing down all these little warning things and all the stuff that was going on, and I was just clear. I was really sharp, and I am sharp as a tack, but this was just like next level. I'd get messages and downloads and all the stuff, and it was quite profound, actually. So I'm sitting in my house, and I'm like hollow, like my eyes are sore. I remember looking, and I was like, I can't even look in the mirror. I was like sore. And my lovely friend, who was also going through quite the tough time, came over to my house to come and stay with me. And she walked in, and she was like, where's Monique? Like, where's she gone? She's not even here. And I actually probably wasn't, because I was just, felt not myself. And I was kind of walking around quite the days. My eyes were sore, and my lovely in that time, in that space and time, my hands were trembling, because I knew that felt like I'd been poisoned. Really, it was horrible. It was yuck. And my hands were vibrating, because I knew I could feel it. I could feel it in my hands, and I knew it was real. And I'd been pressing into God at this time, and I'd been talking about that night. I'd been talking about, this is before it happened, actually, about the armor of God, the belt of truth, or what is it? The shield of righteousness, helmet of salvation, and the sword of don't mess with me, is what I call it. And I've been talking about it all that night, actually, before I had crazy dream. And so that had happened. And then my lovely brother in Christ, who I've known forever, said, you should come to church in the morning. And I did. Came to church on the Sunday. Previous to that, back to part 1. Since, I'll just back up the truck a bit, since my friend has chosen this pretty much path of darkness, really, and I'm very concerned about her. She's chosen it, so whatever. But I had said to her, look, we can't be friends because, your path is pretty much death and destruction, really. The enemy only comes to steal, kill, and destroy. I'd said to her, but whatever happens, if you need me, you ring me. And I got a missed phone call, I think it was on the Friday. And so I messaged, I rang her back, and it was a missed phone call. And I said, hi, how are you? Got a missed phone call, might have been a pocket call. I hope you're safe and I hope you're well. Give me a ring, give me a call back. So I got, the first message was, as I got a message saying, hi, yeah, it was a pocket call. Funny you should ring. I was just talking to so-and-so, and saying, oh yeah, I'm safe. I've got these protective people around me. And I know that they work in the spirit of darkness. I've been told directly that they do, and this person has actually been to my house before and has, I think, been targeting me and the family, and her friend tried to run her off the road in real life. So when you're a bit of a threat and then you get targeted even more, especially in the whole spiritual realm. So that was the other Friday. And then I got some incredibly abusive messages with just swearing, and you're this and you're this, and horrible messages. I've saved them because the biggest lie that the enemy makes us believe is that he doesn't exist. So I think that it's quite in my right to expose that, which I am doing now as well. So yeah, that morning I got picked up for church, and I walked in. It was like this. As soon as I walked in, I was like, oh my gosh, this just feels like home. Like I was like, walked in, and there's Māori fella on the, it might have been Samoan on the, sorry that our worship team hasn't turned up today, and there's Samoan fella on the stage doing the worship. And I was like, cool. There's only about 20-30 people there, and it just felt really real, felt really cool. And the message was about listen, like an acronym about listen. And a really cool service, just felt really warm and friendly. Heaps of like very multicultural, a lot of Māori people. Guy without an arm, a few different other ones. The pastor, well, I call him Pastor Dad. He's sort of like a dad, old person version of me, and really cool. And super lovely, smiley Māori wife. She's like an old kuia. It's just, yeah, it felt like home. Anyway, so through the service, with the whole blood thing I felt like I needed to have communion. And it's funny, they had communion there, thanks God. And so I've been betrayed, and through that message they were talking about the betrayal of Jesus. And they did the communion, and I sobbed, and I felt cleansed. It was really, it was quite nice. It was just what I needed, actually. And then afterwards, it's crazy. Then afterwards, Pastor Dad says, if anyone's got any issues, just come up the front, shimmy everyone's chair out the way, and go up the front. And I was like, God's like, off you go, Monique. And I was like, okay, better keep listening to you. So off I did. I went up the front, and the Tui said to me, can I hold your hand here? Yeah, that's cool. I started crying, and I said, I loved him, because I was in quite the state of heartbreak and sobbing on her shoulder, and she gave me some very encouraging words that I needed. And then the Pastor Dad came over and said, touch me, and he said, let her be delivered of this. Next minute, I'm on the flippin' floor in front of, I don't know, 20 or 30 people that I've never met before. I'm on the floor, absolutely crying and crying and crying and crying and crying. Next minute, I'm screaming and shouting. And then I got up and I said, it's in my fucking blood. And by this stage, I hadn't even opened my eyes. I was just sort of on the floor. I was frothing. I was like, it was quite, I needed to get it out, basically. And the lovely Wahine then took me into the kitchen and said, do you you want to have a cup of tea? Would you like a cup of tea? And I was like, yes, please. And I'm like this. And they're giving me a cup of tea. One hands me over a tissue. This one gives me this. Do you want something to eat? And I'm like, no. And this woman comes over. Still haven't really even opened my eyes at this stage. And this woman came over and I was sitting at the kitchen area and she came over and she had this cross necklace on. Bright, I think it was orange. And she came up and I just saw the cross necklace and I grabbed it and I started weeping again and crying. And I opened my eyes and I saw that she was wearing a mask. So I was like, take your mask off. So I took it off and I sort of got myself together. And then I just felt cleansed. I felt like I'd gotten rid of this yucky, dark entity, yucky, whatever's going on, demonic torment and experience that'd been going on in my life. And I had said to God, I am done with lessons. Can I just have blessings now? Well, the blessings have started and continued since I've decided to trust in God massively. Anyway, so on the interesting side note that, so I've lost my keys in real life for 4 weeks or something. That was the least of my problems. I had to climb through the window a few times. And so I've lost my keys. That Monday, I got given a key ring by a client. And I was like, cool, when I found my keys, I can put this key ring on there. It was really cool. And about hairdressers, being creative and artistic and helping people was really nice. And Caitlin was back and it was just me and her. And so she'd given me the key ring in the morning, and in the afternoon I was like, well, we better go down to New World now and get something for dinner. I walk outside, open the door, my key is in the door. I'm like, what the heck? That is weird. And I'm like, where would that have come from? I mean, none other than Archangel Michael, thank you very much. Very much so. Absolutely, because he's the one that fights in the spiritual realm. And then actually that night previous to that, as I heard these footsteps in my house, and Samantha was still here, and I was waiting for her to turn the light on so I could see if it was her going to the toilet. Well, no lights came on, but I wasn't scared when I heard those footprints. It was kind of like, okay, sweet as, I'm done with this. Someone else can take care of it now. And I feel like since then, I reckon it probably was Archangel Michael sorting out my keys, putting them in the door. So that happened. Me and Caitlin walked down to New World, and I said, don't worry, I said, all the baddies have gone now. And she said, oh, that's good, Mum. And she said, there was a devil in that man in the truck. And I said, he's gone now. Don't worry, it's all gone now. We got rid of it. And she said, yeah, it's a new world. As we're walking into New World, it's a new world now. And I said, that's good, Caitlin. So yes, it is a new world, and I'm feeling fresh. I'm feeling on fire for God. I'm feeling like he's got me, and I've done, I think, day 4 of healing, and I've got some really cool stories from that. New connections with old friends, and feeling like I've been doing a lot of research in the anointing and everything that's sort of stemmed from me choosing God. I recommend it, by the way, coolest thing ever. Has just absolutely gone boom, and just I feel like I'm completely on the right path. My purpose is feeling a bit more clear, and all the baddies have gone now, so that's good. And I've even said to God, I need a rest from that now because it's too hard. Throughout that church service, I had a strong sense of an army going to go and help my friend to get out, and I was in this kind of mode of, we've got to go and get her, go and get her out kind of thing. And I'd even rung her mum and had said to her, we've got to get her out. This is getting ridiculous now, and she's been really sick, the poor old thing, really sick actually. And this woman has since sold her property, and she's worked hard her whole life. She's an incredibly hard worker. I used to call it an empire builder, and she's since moved. She hasn't really moved anywhere, but she's in the sticks and mitty with this loser on, and who's just wanting to take her money with all of him and his bludger hanger-on mates. So So that hasn't been good, but at the end of the day, she's chosen that, and just remembering that we're not fighting people, but principalities in power. Anyway, so that's my spiritual warfare story. If you want to know more, just private message me on moniquedeburs.com.